This is Enthusiastic Steve and welcome back to part 2 of CB Magazine Review. In part 1 we looked at the CB Citizen Band magazine. This time we take a look at Breaker, the Citizen Band radio magazine from April 1981. Breaker magazine, this was again another very popular CB magazine of the time back in 1981. Depicted on the front cover here, of course, a very nice black-faced Vice President Roy. Does make you wonder how many President radios have been made over the years, AM ones and current FM ones. Their headline there, 27 FM legal. A dream come true or a nightmare? In 1981, on the left-hand side there, we can see Britain's foremost CB specialist, now open. It was the shop in Kenton Road in Harrow, down in Middlesex. For those who remember going in there, and if you've shopped there, put some comments down. Let's hear what you think about it. On the right-hand side, again, a lot of influence with the rallies going on, the American truck CB and Americanised, etc. A couple of caricatures there, maybe not as politically correct today, but this is the approach the magazine took. A big advert again for Grove House Electronics down in Bognor Regis on the south coast. They did CB books and everything. And on the right hand side there, a little bit of a rag chew jaw, a little bit of a column on discussing what's to come, fighting for the number of channels we wanted, etc. Now again, the radio there, lovely looking radio. That's a Midland, but these were pre-UKFM radios, so that's an AM set there. On the next page, we've got an advert for CRU Autos. A lot of car accessory shops were starting to sell CB equipment. Again, antennas, mounts, microphones and other bits and pieces, but not the radios, of course, so not legal ones anyway. There's a little story I can tell you just briefly. One of my first sideband radios, I used to go to a car spares place in Southsea, just outside Portsmouth, and used to go in there regularly and gaze at all their fire stick antennas and K40 microphones, etc. And you go in and you end up buying the cheapest thing there, which was probably the DV27, the famous little antenna you could mount on a biscuit tin in your loft. So I bought myself a DV27. I go to the checkout, see the guy there, he'd look you up and down. You say, is there anything I can plug this into? And he'd say, nope. So you'd end up buying a antenna which you had nothing to plug it into. You'd come back the following weekend. You go back in the same shop, you'd buy something else. And you go to the counter and you say to the guy behind the counter, have you got anything I can use this with? And he'd look at you and go, nope. Anyway, you've now bought two things from him and you've got nothing to plug it into. The following week I went back, bought a microphone, I think, and I said to him, anything this week I can plug this into? He looked at me again, looked at the clock, and says, come back this afternoon at 4 o'clock, come on round the back. So turned up at 4 o'clock, joined a huge crowd of about a dozen or so other people in this little courtyard. A big white Mercedes turned up. This guy got out, looked at us all, walked round to his boot, opened up the boot, and it was full of illegally imported CB radios. They used to bring them in through the Isle of Man and bring them into the country from America. And there was a whole box of sideband and AM radios. And you basically went along, he just handed a radio to you. There wasn't a lot of choice. And I bought something called a WKS 1001. It was a great radio at the time. I made some fantastic contacts on it. But that's how CB radios were generally sold in the day, pre-November 1981 when it went legal. Anyway, back to the adverts. We've mentioned CRU Autos. We've got Stan Willits there, CB Accessories. And we've got some more comments and views here from readers. They were looking at the time, they didn't even know if 27 megs was going to be allocated. They were talking about possibly 232 megs. But of course, that falls into the military areas. Now, all CB radio operators had names, or to give it its correct term, handles. I was Bigfoot. My friend of mine was Guy Fawkes. There was Plastic Wood. There were dozens and dozens of these people, us out there with different names. And of course, you could get these names put onto T-shirts and mugs. And one of the companies that do this is here. All you CBers put an eyeball, i.e. a meat, on Barney Beans American T-shirts. And you could have your own design or one of their own designs on there. Again, more information from readers, ideas, what they thought, etc. Some of the adverts, though, they make better reading than the magazine sometimes. You've copied the rest, now copy the best. Charlie Bravo, down there in Tunbridge Wells, Kent. Trade only for the best wholesale prices in the country. That was Globe Communications. Castlegate TV and radio, down there selling a handheld radio. And look at that for a radio. No, not the lady, the radio. Eyes down, radio. Zachary T, 80 channel base station. And again, some more information there from the viewers and readers. Again, another big advert there for Open Channel Radio Limited in Cambridge. And people did lots of different things to get CB recognised and noticed. Like charity dips in the sea, pushchair races, etc. Some more adverts. A lot of TV companies got involved trying to sell CB radio equipment. They thought it was another string to their bow. A company there selling Avanti antennas, summer camp amateur marine radios, etc. We've got big rigs for the truckers down there at Raleigh in Essex. And a company there in Basingstoke as well, selling bits and pieces for these SWR meters, patch leads, etc. for the CB community. On this side, ours not to reason why. Bad news, I'm afraid, said the cartoon. We're coming close to when it was legalised in November 81, but there was still a lot of speculation that was this law going to be passed? Was it going to get through our parliament, etc.? There was lots of speculation it wasn't going to actually reach the goal, and it's going to fall flat on its face. The cartoon on the following page depicts basically a wholesaler with hundreds and hundreds of AM radios and unable to sell them, probably because they've actually, in this instance, they've legalised FM, and all the thousands of sets that have been imported were now illegal to use. It really does make you wonder what happened to all the people running these shops and the shops themselves on the high streets, etc. High Street in Edgware, Middlesex, Breaker 1-4. What happened to them? C.B Radio by Richard Nichols down there. What happened to them? CB Accessories at Dad, Worcestershire. Shell Post Limited, 185 The Rock and Bury in Lancashire. Again, communication antennas. And CB Equipment Specialist down there on Walton-on-Thames. Just one of a handful of companies that sold CB radio equipment decided to invest their money into the hobby, taking the gamble because yet it was not legal. These two pages must have cost the company a little bit to print, as it's all mainly black ink and negative. A little cartoon there with Busby on the end, and some lady who's having problems with her top by the looks of it. Anyway, the joke on the side, it was a log of one person's CB activity one evening, going through the illegal AM channels, and that's basically what they heard. You've got Wintjoy Limited. Now, they were major importers of American CB radio equipment into the UK. High Gain, K40, Shakespeare, Firestick, etc., Turner, some big names, well-established names into CB radio. And over here, of course, you've got another couple of ladies who forgot to dress properly, and they're actually advertising Breaker t-shirts. You can have logos put on them, etc. It was quite the thing at the time. They would say with all the meetups, the eyeballs, people were really getting into it, getting badges done, mugs done, and t-shirts. And because of the strong influence from America, it wasn't unusual to see photographs of big rigs. There's a big Kenworth trailer and unit on this one with fire stick antennas mounted on their mirrors. Even more manufacturers there printing off t-shirts and jackets with your handles on. It was becoming a big thing. People were jumping on the bandwagon to print them or embroider them. All good though. And on the right hand side, be wary of the rip-offs, the rig rip-offs. The market was becoming aware that this was a big seller. They could charge what they wanted. People would buy it at any price. And there were the less than better dealers out there on the quiet you could buy equipment from on the black market, so to speak. Fortunately, during this time, there was no such thing really as Chinese rip-offs. There was no Chinese cheap copies. So when you bought a K40, you were buying the K40, but probably at an elevated price, or let's just say they weren't imported correctly in the first place. SWR meters, handheld walkie-talkies, etc. So again, just even today, just be aware when you're buying. Today we've got the internet, but things are no different. You really have to be careful you're not being scammed when buying a second-hand or used equipment off, or even brand new equipment off some of these websites. On seeing all these adverts selling objects and items for the CB community, it does make you wonder how they actually sold so many, considering there wasn't that many radios at the time other than the imported ones. But the CB centre there at South Croydon, there was another dealer, CB Radio Accessories, Auto Aid, 73s, 88s there, look, down Stardusters, silver rods, burners, power supplies, PA horns and SWR meters, again in Croydon. And we've got turn on to maximum power. Antennas really basically similar to the Fire Stick. Over on the right hand side now we're starting to gather some of these holiday camps and places were starting to advertise CB's weekends. Mass eyeballs, fantastic. Eyeball Motorman number plates. You can actually get your name on your number plate. It was legal, well, legal or not, people were doing it. And big ears in the shop there. Roman Road, London, largest retailer stock in the country, so they say. No expense spared on this magazine for using coloured inks. Another American truck, again with some antennas mounted to its bodywork. So you got yourself your CB radio and you've got all the components and you've put it all together and you've gone out in your car and you started listening around and people are speaking a different jargon and got no idea what they're saying. It all seems to be in some type of code. So what do? Well, you could go to Breaker 19 and buy a little single record, a little album. Well, it's not even an album, it's a single. And on there, you could listen to CB jargon. It's all explained here. You've got Skywave up there, Fire Stick antennas, etc. for communication. And a company called Formula One. Now look at that car. Doesn't resemble anything like a Formula One today, does it? How that sport's moved on. Now, even in the early 80s, theft from cars was a major problem because you didn't even really need a key to open most cars up. I mean, a screwdriver would actually open up most of the Fords around in them days in the UK. So alarm systems were starting to be released. No cars came with alarms or immobilizers, not really, only the really expensive ones. But most cars never had an alarm system. So as a deterrent, you could fit an aftermarket one, especially now you've just invested all your money into a nice CB radio, all sitting there under the dashboard. Somebody may decide to just open your door and take it away. On the left there, Sertel UK Limited. Again, selling all types of antennas and accessories. Underneath that, even more T-shirts to be printed. So it just shows you what a big industry it was becoming. Here we've got Tuesday, choose. CB Supplier. Now, look at those pictures. Who had a Sigma? Massive big antenna. It was about a 3/4 wave, I believe. A Sigma 4. Or did you have the Avanti? The massive, great big beam antenna. That was a big beastie. I don't think I can ever recall seeing anyone having those in the garden, but they were out there and they were very, very good antennas. A updated list of CB breaker clubs around the UK, and they've depicted their little birdie called CB. In reality, it looks very much like Busby, the telecom GPO adopted mascot, which they used to go around and track down illegal radio operators. But in this instance, we've got a nice friendly CB. More expensive. If I was the editor of this magazine, I'd be going, what? How much have we spent on coloured ink? But here we are, nice Kenworth truck, big great antennas, and Exxon in the background, a fuel company. Down there in Hitchin Hearts, we had a company selling the dial-of match, the Valor antennas. Do you remember those? They used to have a little small rings on the bottom, and you just tune the rings up and down the base, and that would actually tune in your antenna. We've got SSE down there in Dorking. In Mid Cornwall, not to be left out, the CB Centre down there. You've got Arrowman, custom pins and badges. Again, put your handle on it. 10-4 limited. What have we got down here as well? We've got your ears on for all your CB requirements. Harrison's accessories. Whatever happened to all these different companies? Again, if you know of any of them, ever used them, just post up some comments. It'd be so interesting to find out. I mean, they supported the CB community, and to say if it were without all these companies, the hobby of CB radio would have never have established itself, and we wouldn't be using them today. Now, sign of the times there, I say you can only buy the accessories. This advert states it all. Base rig, we got the twig. Not the base rig, but we do have the twig. Twig, of course, being the antenna. The North's leading distributor of CB radio accessories, trader parts. And if you've got a complaint about any adverts, here's the board you need to speak to. Of course, we never had computers, so you'd have to write a letter. Dear advertisers, I've got a complaint about an advert in a magazine. There you go. And of course, people did. Easiest QSL. There we go. QSL cards. People were getting these cards done, drawings, etc., depicting like a little nickname or of themselves. I had Bigfoot. So I had a big like Sasquatch Yeti on mine. But people sent these out if they made contacts, etc. But again, if you see these about today, I would recommend you collect them because they are becoming highly collectible. DX clubs were forming, and again, these things were going worldwide, and they were really becoming popular to have. A bit like a business card, but with your call sign handle on them. You could send them out for your club one even. Your club might have one, and the club will have your name on it as well. Lots of advertising in these magazines, but again, that's what kept these magazines alive, especially all this coloured ink they've used. But there, we've got some more there, different companies. I won't go through all those. CB's Unlimited there, etc. And then they started selling rotors as well. So they were importing stuff in from the amateur world as well. So that's basically an amateur rotator. So if you did have one of those big Avanti beam antennas, you could go out and buy the amateur radio rotor or rotator and stick it on top of your mast. Now, as you are aware, on most CB radios, if not all CB radios, you will have a Channel 9 switch. Now, Channel 9 was kind of adopted as the emergency channel. Ideally, especially in America, where it was more, CB was well established, you could go onto Channel 9, put out a call. I've got a problem, my car's broke down, I've got a puncture, I'm not feeling well, I need assistance, I need help. And somebody would generally come back to you. Channel 9 was being monitored. It's a little bit different here in the UK. We never had the actual whole coverage across the whole of the UK. So it was a little bit hit and miss. But Channel 9 was there if you had a problem. And they were setting up little teams called REACT, the Radio Emergency Associated Citizens Team, to actually monitor these 24/7. Now, I wouldn't want to rely on it. I think I'll still want to rely on 999, but it was an option. And I've actually not used Channel 9, but I've actually broken down in my car before. And fortunately, my mate was in radio range, and I managed to call him up on the radio because we never had mobile phones. We'd have to find a phone box with and put a 2p or 10p in it to make a phone call. But my mate was in radio range, and he came to my assistance and managed to tow me home. So CB radio did work. I wondered how long it'd be before one of these appeared in the magazine. I think they're a little bit more choosy what they advertise, but it's the first one I've seen. But there you go, there's a couple more adverts there advertising bits and pieces. And on here we've got plain sayings. Over London, it was one of the traffic reporters. Do you remember when we used to get traffic reports on your local radio, even on some smaller radio stations? They'd hire a plane, they'd send a reporter up daily, and they'd look down on the traffic and report how the traffic was flowing. Of course, Google come along, Google Maps, and you can do all that on an app. So they save the expense and no longer sent their traffic reporters up anymore. And plain sayings continued on another 2 pages there, talking about what the reporters reported and how the system worked. Because of all the interest in CB Radio and everything that was going on out there, of course, it started to hit the newspapers big time. So they did a little, like a scrapbook of what was actually happening. And here's some examples that they found that month in the actual papers. It's CB Radio to the rescue. The positive side of it. Club hands over £1,000. They raised money for good, worthy causes. Radio wars. CB users will continue despite police warnings. They were going to ignore the government anyway. Even if they decided it wasn't going to be legal, people would have continued. CB cars won't be stopped. Because at the time they were talking about everything, every car with a big antenna was going to be stopped and equipment actually confiscated. The radio bandits bounced model plane pilots, because there was a lot of controversy because, like I said in the previous video, the CB radio community and the amateur radio aircraft enthusiasts were sharing the same frequencies, which could cause problems. Police to ignore CB outlaws. So they were hoping that the police were going to be told, look, we've got better things to police. If they want to drive around with big aerials on their cars, talking to each other, let them do it. Listen, there's a jam, a sandwich lurking. So again, they're making reports. The CBers were reporting to each other where traffic holdups were, and it was helping the flow of traffic. So again, police in swoop on CB radio protester. So somebody's protesting about CB radio, and they probably went a little bit over the top, and they were actually swooped upon. They probably had their house searched and their equipment confiscated. So a bit of a balance there, good and bad on the CB radio community. Generally, it was very good, and they were doing a lot for charity and the public, helping out wherever they could. Some further adverts there on the left-hand side. They even managed to squeeze in an advert on its side there, look, for T-shirts. And we've got hauling ASS hither side, looking back at different truckers and movements of equipment over the years. So another 2 pages on hauling ASS. But again, if you're into your lorries or your coaches, there are some beautiful examples there. These magazines sometimes were worth buying for the little stories they do inside. And before we get to the end of the magazine, there had to be one more in there. There it is, the old radio. Nothing against those radios. I mean, I've had a couple of them over the years. They were what they were, and they work. But compared to modern day equipment, they were abysmal. But they were cheap, and they got people listening on the airbands, which was important. So again, some more T-shirts there. And we've got custom equip CB radio accessories. And they seem to be up in the north of England there, up on towards the borders. So again, fire sticks, high gains, Avantis, some very big names there. So it's good to see that they were also supporting the CB community. On the back page of the magazine there, another lovely coloured advert. Any takers? John Wolfe Racing Limited down there in Bedford. Now that poor young lady, again, she's rushed out. It's quite a chilly day, not too much clothes on, so she's decided to stand against that Volvo's warm radiator to warm up. But again, it's got CB antennas sticking up on the outside mirrors. Again, for those who don't know, the CBs on trucks, they tend to mount them on the mirrors for a good ground plane, and they mount them parallel. So they're approximately quarter wave apart, approximately 8 to 9 feet apart, and they work in phase. So you use a phased harness, so the signal arrives at both antennas at the same time and transmits in phase, and you kind of get a projection going forward and back. Because if you think about it, the truckers spend most time on motorways, so they're trying to send their signal along the motorway, either behind them or in front of them. So that's why you tend to see 2 antennas on trucks and not just the one. And again, a lot of truck stop accessory shops and just truck stops on service stations all started selling CB radio equipment, and they were a good source for your home-based stuff, equipment, and your car users to buy radio equipment as well. So that's a look at the 2 magazines from 1981, CB, Citizen Band and Breaker. There were other CB radio magazines out there at the time, all very similar. Some good reviews, some good write-ups, and it gave us something to read and encouragement before FM became legal. So thank you very much indeed for watching the video, or both of the videos. Hope you enjoy that. A little trip back into the past and a little bit of nostalgia. This has been Enthusiastic Steve, 73s everybody. Please consider looking at the rest of my videos on my channel. Something for everybody. CB, amateur radio, antenna reviews, radio reviews, mast, etc. So 73s everybody. Please like and subscribe. All helps to try and grow my relatively small channel. Trying to make it a little bit larger. So thank you very much indeed. This has been Enthusiastic Steve.